Chairman, we're now live and we can start the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. A warm welcome to all those attending this evening and watching on the Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. Details of the business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are available in the room and can be found underneath the live broadcast. There's also resident feedback forms available in the room and again underneath the live broadcast. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarm does go off, please follow the officers to the fire exits and out to the designated meeting points. Can I ask people in the room to switch off any mobile device that you have before the meeting which starts, which is now, or put them on silence. As we move on to the agenda, I'll just introduce myself. As it says, I'm Councillor Douglas Mills. I'm the Cabinet Member for Corporate Services and constitutionally responsible for the grants that go to voluntary groups in the Borough. I have two council officers with me today, Kevin Byrne, who is Head of Health and Strategic Partnership, and Liz Penny, who is from Democratic Services. The purpose of this evening is to be hearing two petitions, both related to the Council's core grant to Hillingdon Autistic Care and Support regarding the running of the Rural Activity Garden Centre tea room. I will shortly be inviting the lead petitioners to come and join us and to have 5 minutes of presenting their petition. And I then move just to the formal bits, which is a declaration of interest in matters coming before this meeting. I don't believe there are any.
No, there are none, Chairman.
And confirm that this meeting is a meeting that is in public, but it is not a public meeting as such, and therefore they said there is a process to be followed. We will now consider the report that's before us, and in doing so I will ask the first lead petitioner, who I believe is Lydia, if you would like to come and present your petition to us, please.
Yes, please, if you could just press the button, and we have a traffic light system here, so there'll be 5 minutes for you to speak. Okay.
Right, I'll try my best. It might just go slightly over, and please bear with me if it does. Thank you. I'd like to thank Democratic Services for inviting me here today to present the petition. We represent 1,259 Hillingdon residents who signed the Change.org petition, and 128 Hillingdon residents who signed the e-petition in support of the tea rooms receiving funding. There were also 325 letters of support sent by people who wanted the funding to continue. I divide this petition statement into 3 headings: transparency, the social model of disability, and what petition signatories would like the Council to do. Transparency. The grant of £40,000 paid to the charity which ran the tea room is a symbol of support for disabled people from the residents of London Borough of Hillingdon. Hillingdon Council has not got a good record on supporting autistic people. In 2012, Hillingdon Council, which is run by the Conservatives, paid £35,000 compensation as the High Court said it violated the human rights of an autistic man. This was never reported in the Hillingdon People magazine. The Council subsequently published a review in 2021 called Making the Council More Autism Friendly. In a section of the review called the 15 Priority Challenges, autistic people said, "I want my views and aspirations to be taken into account when decisions are made in my local area. I want support to get a job and support from my employer to keep it." Hillingdon People magazine, which is paid for by council taxpayers, is distributed to the 4 corners of the borough. There are no reports in Hillingdon People which may have alerted autistic people or their families that the axe was about to fall on voluntary organisations funded by the council. None of the Hillingdon's Conservative cabinet who wielded the axe raised questions about the Quality Impact Assessment report. That report says no in the tick box when asked if there was a consultation or engagement. The disabled people who worked at the tea room did not know until January 23 that they were losing their jobs. They did not know the cafe was making a loss, nor were they given help or support to make the cafe profitable. Hillingdon Council's website, under the links on the Public Service Sector Equality Duty page, highlights the Equality and Human Rights Commission document, Making Fair Financial Decisions. This says, no one can give you a better insight into how proposed changes will have an impact on them, for example, disabled people, than disabled people themselves. In February 2023, Councillor Lavery sent a statement out to the residents who said they did not want the tea room to close, saying, officers are also working to ensure there is no gap in the serving of tea and coffee, etc. from the cafe until we've confirmed any new plans. When I went to the cafe on Tuesday the 18th of April, the cafe was closed. The disabled staff at the garden centre had lost the facility for getting a proper lunch as well. My second point, the social model of disability. A revolutionary way of looking at disability was introduced globally with the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of Disabled People. The convention is based on the social model of disability. It aims to remove the barriers faced by disabled people by changing society, including the economic and social barriers. In 2009, when Hillingdon Council was under Conservative control, it adopted the social model of disability. What does this mean in real life? One example is the case of Remploy factories. Remploy was set up in the spirit of 1945 to provide employment opportunities to ex-miners and soldiers returning from the Second World War. Remploy had some factories which didn't make profit. The decision to close these factories caused a national debate about disabled people's employment. The Conservative Minister for Disabled People, Esther McVeigh, spoke for the coalition government in a House of Commons debate on the closure of Remploy in 2012. Esther McVeigh was willing to provide support of $6,400 for each Remploy employer for 3 years. That is worth £8,400 in today's money. Autistic people face a huge disadvantage in the jobs market. We need more places of employment for autistic people, not fewer choices. Closing the tea room reduces the already very limited variety of workplaces for autistic people. Working in a rural environment means a chance to be near plants and greenery when staff take a break. Nature can have a very positive impact on mental health. The Civic Centre as a location for an alternative tea room does not offer the same benefits. The Disability Convention says at Article 27 that governments shall prohibit discrimination based on disability. They should promote the employment of disabled people, which may include affirmative action programmes and incentives. The Equality Act 2010 says that Hillingdon Council should think about the need to remove or reduce the disadvantages suffered by people because of disability. The UK's government National Strategy for Autistic Children, Young People and Adults, published in 2021, says, as of December 2020, 22% of autistic people aged 16 to 64 are in employment, in contrast to 52% of disabled people and 81% of non-disabled people. The number of autistic people in jobs remains stubbornly low. That is why we need affirmative action and incentives offered to charities to run the cafe. My final point, what the petition signatories would like the Council to do. Following the closure of Widevale on Heath Road, the tea room enhances the garden centre as a destination. This supports the Council's strategy of making a green and sustainable borough, as it means that residents do not have to travel to garden centres further away. Hillingdon Council's climate strategy says it will develop and implement an annual engagement strategy that covers all interested stakeholders, e.g. residents, resident groups, associations, community groups, environmental bodies such as Sustrains, Friends of the Earth and businesses. Increased use of the tea room by the Council as a venue would help its cash flow. Where better to engage with interested stakeholders than at the tea rooms? If the funding is restored, many of the people who signed the petitions and wrote the letters will be ready to help the tea room. We would like the Council to go back to Hillingdon Autistic Care and Support and say, we have reconsidered our decision and we will reinstate the grant for the tea room. Please watch the BBC Two Chris Backham documentary Inside Our Autistic Minds and the Channel 4 Dispatches documentary called Locked Away, Our Autism Scandal. They help by giving a better understanding of the situation facing autistic people. Thank you for listening.
Councillor Mills, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. My youngest son has autism, a complex communication disorder and an anxiety disorder. He had a breakdown following the failure of his special school placement at the age of 15. He is now 25 and lives an isolated existence in our family home. The past 10 years has been spent trying to rebuild his confidence, self-esteem and trust in a world which he doesn't understand and feels is against him, yet he still interacts with less than 10 people. Our family witnessed his struggles and have done everything in our power to help him every single day of his life. He and we, his family, have been to hell and part way back, and life is far from normal. This is the reality of living with autism. The Council proudly proclaims its strapline of putting residents first. In the highlights section of the report received with the agenda for this meeting, it is stated, this report supports the Council's commitments to residents in the 2022 to 2026 Council strategy of Thriving Healthy Households, a Thriving Economy. The Council's policy document, as it appears on the website, states, Thriving Healthy Households. Children, young people, their families and vulnerable adults and older people live healthy, active and independent lives. The tea rooms provided a safe space to 20 young adults employed on the Skills and Employment Programme run by HACS. Trained mentors help them develop a sense of belonging, responsibility and ability to work as part of a team. It enabled each individual to grow in confidence and self-esteem and to feel valued within the community. One young adult who benefited had previously made several attempts at suicide, and their mother told me that the tea room saved their life. They finally felt accepted and that they were good enough. By refusing the grant, 20 vulnerable adults have had their mental health and emotional well-being compromised, and the opportunity for them to exercise any independence has been taken away. Therefore, the Council has not met this objective. A thriving economy. We are actively working with local businesses and partners to create a borough where businesses grow within a strong economy and local people can improve their skills and enjoy good quality jobs. In the agenda document, in the supporting information at the top of page 3, it states, the tea room was loss-making and the core grant of £40,000 with 20 people benefiting from training was considered not to offer good value for money. I would ask, how much does it cost to help someone who feels so low that they want to commit suicide? How much does it cost in doctor's fees, medication, therapy, counselling, to support someone whose emotional and mental well-being has been completely eroded? £2,000 for such an achievement would be an absolute bargain. For a moment, let's focus purely on money. My son receives funding via social services to hire a carer for 20 hours a week at a cost of £14,000 per annum. With the loss of the tea rooms, it is possible that more young adults will require extra support from social services. If they were each to receive the same level of funding as my son, that will cost £280,000 per annum. I believe I have demonstrated that the therapeutic benefits of the facility were a bargain at £2,000 per person per year, and that the facility potentially saved the local authority £250,000 per year. But it was considered not to offer good value for money. With a potential extra spend the Council may now incur in funding these 20 individuals, the objective to grow a strong economy has been compromised. Without this facility, these people can no longer improve their skills or enjoy good quality jobs, so the Council has failed on this objective. The agenda states that the Council will make a decision after hearing our petitions. The tea rooms have been closed for almost a month, and I understand they have been gutted. The people who needed our help have already been failed. I'm really not sure why any of us are here today, as a decision has already not just been made, but actioned. At least one young person has had their belief confirmed that they were not good enough. In Councillor Lavery's response to residents' letters to the Leader of the Council, it states that Council officers are now looking at options for a new cafe or coffee shop arrangement at the Rural Activities Garden Centre, with a view to making it self-funding. Can the Council confirm that this will include provision for employment and training for adults with autism, with or without HACS involvement? Thank you.
thank you, both of you ladies, for the petitions which you presented forcibly and clearly in terms of what you wish to happen. In making decisions, we need to weigh up a number of things. One of the things which we'll start with is that as a borough, we still are supporting the voluntary sector as a whole to the tune of £1.6 million, which is a considerable sum of money compared to many other London councils. One of the things which we set out for all of our voluntary groups very early in the process was to say to them that we needed to rearrange the funding mechanisms going forward, and that this would be a process over some time, and that those organisations which we were funding where it was clear that they were unable to provide additional support, or we were just funding a loss-making operation, were unlikely to get longer-term funding. And unfortunately, the tea rooms falls into that category. Discussions were had, with HACS about what this may mean in the long term. And equally, as the report that we have in front of us points out, we wish to continue to support and do continue to support HACS for the work that they do. And there is an additional core grant of £40,000 which they receive from this authority. And as the report points out, that is able to support well over 1,000 of our residents who need the kind of support that you've been talking about. So we had a bit of a dilemma. We had £40,000 supporting over 1,000 residents, and yet we had another £40,000 that was only supporting around 20, but it wasn't being given the same kind of return and investment. And therefore, we had to think about what was the impact across the whole of our residents, and that was one of the decisions that we took at the time in making the decision. Interestingly enough, of course, HACS themselves, who were running the tea rooms on our behalf with the grant, have decided operationally not to continue it, and it is they that have, in effect, closed, because it was their decision at the end of the day, despite the fact that, again, as the report points out, that HACS are sitting on reserves of several £100,000, and therefore it wasn't money alone which presumably made them come to that decision that the tea room was not a viable concern going forward. The council has been looking to see whether any other partner was available to come and support the tea room. Unfortunately, no partner has come forward to run it, because, as I understand it, discussions that have been had have all come away with this is a loss-making operation of a considerable amount and is not sustainable, therefore, in the long run for any organisation to take forward. So that was the background in terms of arriving at a decision. What I want to do now, rather than rush to make an immediate decision, is I'm going to have a 15-minute adjournment so I can discuss with my officials, and then come back and give a decision so that you all have a decision tonight as to where we are in terms of the way going forward. And that's therefore the proposal. I now adjourn this meeting for 15 minutes for further consideration of the points. Thank you.